Imagine standing at the gate of your own neighborhood, only to have someone call 911 on you, just because you refuse to let them in. That's exactly what happened here. An HOA board member demanded access without an ID, and when the new neighbor followed the rules, she dialed the police. But what neither of them knew was that the man's wife, the one person who would calm the storm, was a dispatcher on the other end of that 911 call. This story has everything: drama, tension, and an ending you won't see coming. Stay with me, because what happened next changed a whole neighborhood. Hey everyone, welcome back to BrainFuel, the place where real-life stories teach powerful lessons. If you love true stories that reveal the power of empathy and courage, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because you don't want to miss what happens in this one. You can't stop me from entering MY neighborhood. Those words came out like a slap in the quiet Saturday air, loud enough to make a couple of birds flutter out of the nearby maple tree. Nathan jerked his head up from the patch of begonias he was watering. The hose kept running in his hand, spraying a thin arc of water that dripped down onto his sneakers. It was one of those lazy spring afternoons that seemed built for peace. The air warm but not too hot, a faint breeze carrying the smell of freshly cut grass. The kind of afternoon Nathan had looked forward to all week after long shifts at the auto shop. He had decided to spend the day tending the flowers in front of the new townhouse he shared with his wife, Maya. The couple had moved into the Maple Grove community only 2 months earlier and still felt like newcomers trying to fit in. Nathan's new neighborhood was usually calm, row after row of beige-painted homes with matching shutters, a playground at the corner, and a gated entrance that required either a resident's access card or the guard's approval. That peaceful picture shadowed the moment a woman, in a crisp white blouse, big sunglasses, and a too-tight smile stormed up the metal gate as if the ground belonged to her. "Sorry, ma'am, can I help you?" Nathan called out, still trying to be polite. He shut off the hose and walked a few steps closer to the gate. The woman, who looked to be in her late 50s, held a clipboard in one hand and a large designer bag in the other. She didn't bother to answer his question. Instead, she pressed her lips into a thin line and jabbed her finger at the keypad next to the gate. "Open this," she demanded. "I'm with the HOA. I need to get in immediately." Nathan was taken aback by her tone, but stayed calm. "Do you live here? I don't recognize you." She huffed, clearly offended. "I don't need to explain myself to you. I said I'm with the HOA. Open it." Nathan hesitated. The neighborhood's welcome packet had been very clear. The front gate was to remain closed to anyone who couldn't prove they were a resident or who didn't have a visitor pass. He'd read those rules carefully, partly because Maya had teased him for being so by the book about it. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said, maintaining his composure, "but I can't just open a gate for someone I don't know. If you live here, you probably have your own card to get in." The woman's cheeks flushed red, and she stepped even closer to the gate, close enough that Nathan could see her sunglasses reflect his own face. "Young man," she snapped, "I've lived in this neighborhood for 20 years. I don't need to prove anything to you. You people think you own the place just because you're new. Move aside right now." Her words hit Nathan like a slap, not because of the tone alone, but because of the pointed "you people." He felt the sting, but decided not to rise to it. Maya often reminded him to keep his cool when faced with rude people. "I'm just following the community rules," Nathan replied. "I'd be happy to open the gate once you show your card or ID. Otherwise, I really can't let you in." A couple of neighbors across the street, curious about the raised voices, peeked out from behind their curtains. Nathan noticed but ignored them, hoping the situation would de-escalate. The woman, however, was far from calming down. She folded her arms and shifted her weight dramatically, like an actress on stage. "This is outrageous," she barked. "You're blocking me from entering my own neighborhood. This is harassment." Nathan let out a slow breath, feeling that uncomfortable mix of frustration and disbelief building in his chest. "Ma'am, I'm not harassing you. I'm asking for identification, just like I would ask from anyone I don't know." The woman's voice rose another octave. "Enough of this nonsense. I'm calling the police right now. Let's see how you explain yourself to them." She yanked out her phone with a flourish, her fingers tapping furiously as if the sheer speed of dialing would prove her point. Nathan stood still, arms relaxed at his sides, trying not to look as exasperated as he felt. Deep down, though, he couldn't shake the feeling that the situation was about to spiral far beyond what it needed to be. All he had done was follow the gate rules. Yet, here he was about to have law enforcement show up on a quiet Saturday because a stranger didn't want to show her ID. Nathan's mind flickered back to Maya, who was working the evening shift at the local 911 dispatch center. He wondered briefly what she'd say about this ridiculous scene when he told her later, unaware that she'd soon be involved in the call herself. The woman began pacing near the gate, loudly narrating her frustration to whoever she was texting, tossing in glances at Nathan every few seconds as though trying to provoke a reaction. He stayed silent, reminding himself of his father's old advice: never let someone else's anger decide how you act. The breeze carried the scent of barbecue from a neighbor's yard, an oddly peaceful counterpoint to the standoff at the gate. Somewhere nearby, a child laughed, the sound ringing out like a reminder of the normal afternoon that had been interrupted. Finally, Nathan broke the silence. Look, I don't want this to turn into a scene. If you really live here, you can call the HOA office or just get your key card. Otherwise, I'm not opening the gate. The woman shot him a glare that could have melted steel. You'll regret this, she muttered, then raised her phone to her ear and started speaking loudly, too loudly, into it. Yes, I'd like to report a man blocking me from entering my own property. I feel unsafe. Nathan let out a small, disbelieving laugh under his breath. He wasn't sure what she thought would happen when the police arrived, but he was certain he hadn't done anything wrong. Still, there was a knot of tension in his stomach. Encounters like this were never simple. As she paced, waiting for help to arrive, Nathan turned the hose back on and resumed watering his flowers as though nothing unusual was happening. It was partly his way of showing her he wouldn't be rattled, and partly his way of distracting himself from a growing crowd of curious neighbors watching from their windows. If only he'd known how much stranger things were about to get. Because the person on the other end of the 911 call the woman had just made was none other than his wife, Maya. Linda Whitmore was her full name, though most of the neighborhood only knew her as the woman with the clipboard. If there had been a trophy for complaining, she had taken first place every year. Even before Nathan and Maya moved in, Linda's reputation in Maple Grove preceded her. Residents traded stories about her on the community Facebook page. The time she measured her neighbor's grass with a ruler and reported it for being half an inch too high. The time she scolded a teenager for parking his bicycle against a tree instead of in the bike rack. The time she called animal control because someone's dog barked after 9 p.m. To the longtime locals, Linda was equal parts comic relief and headache. But to newcomers like Nathan and Maya, she was a total mystery, until that Saturday at the gate. Nathan had seen her once before the distance, striding briskly along the sidewalk in heels entirely unsuitable for walking, clutching that trademark clipboard to her chest like it contained the secrets of national security. She carried herself like Maple Grove was her personal kingdom, and every resident a subject under her watch. That morning, however, she looked even more fired up. Her white blouse was crisply ironed, her black slacks spotless, but her whole posture radiated irritation. She stomped up to the keypad and jabbed the buttons as though the machine had personally offended her. Nathan, standing behind the gate, felt an instinctive need to be polite. He had always been taught to show respect, even to people who didn't offer it back. "Good afternoon," he greeted, hoping that a calm tone might help. "Can I help you with something?" Linda didn't even glance at him. "You can help by opening this gate. I'm with the HOA. I have business to take care of." The way she said business made it sound like a top-secret mission. Nathan tilted his head slightly. "Oh, you were the HOA? I didn't realize. I'm Nathan, by the way. We moved in a couple months ago." That last part, the friendly introduction, earned him only a tight-lipped frown. "I know everyone who lives here," Linda shot back, "and I don't remember approving you." The remark hung in the air for a second. Nathan blinked, unsure whether to laugh or be offended. Approving him? As though he needed her personal blessing to live there. "I'm sure the paperwork went through the office, not you personally," he said lightly. Linda's expression stiffened. "Don't get smart with me, young man. I'm on the HOA board. I need to inspect the new landscaping near the clubhouse. Now open the gate. I don't have all day. Nathan stayed where he was. His fingers curled lightly around the gate's metal bars. The HOA packet said all board members carry an ID card for access. Do you have yours with you? Her eyes flashed behind her sunglasses. Do I look like someone who goes around losing things? I left it in my car, which I parked outside, because I wanted to check the entrance first. Are you really going to make me walk back to my car just to prove I belong here? Nathan's voice remained even. I'm just following the rules we were given. If you're on the board, I'm sure you understand why the gates are locked. To keep strangers out. That word, strangers, seemed to spark something in her. She took a step forward, her heels clicking sharply against the pavement. Strangers, she repeated, her voice rising. I've lived here since before people like you even thought about moving in. I was here when this street was just dirt. Nathan's brows furrowed. The people like you part didn't escape him, but he chose not to take the bait. He forced a polite smile. I don't mean to offend you, ma'am. I just don't know you personally, and I can't open the gate without proof. I'd get in trouble if I did. Linda gave a short, incredulous laugh. In trouble with who? I'm the HOA. You think the rules apply to me? Nathan shifted slightly, feeling that mix of awkwardness and determination. Rules apply to everyone. That's what makes them fair. She snorted, clearly unimpressed with logic. This is absurd. A resident, if you even are one, telling me what's fair, step aside. You're wasting my time. For a heartbeat, they simply stared at each other through the gate. Nathan calm but resolute, Linda stiff-backed and fuming. The scene had drawn a few more quiet onlookers. Curtains twitching, a neighbor's front door opening just a crack. Inside, Nathan felt a ripple of irritation, but kept his voice measured. I'll be happy to open the gate as soon as you can show your access card or a quick ID. That's all I need. Linda's nostrils flared. She muttered something under her breath, then pulled out her phone with a sharp motion. You know what? I'm done arguing, she said, punching numbers furiously. Let's see what the police have to say about this. Nathan's stomach tightened, though his face stayed neutral. He'd been hoping to de-escalate things, not escalate them further. As Linda started speaking into her phone, her voice carried, each word louder than necessary. Hello? Yes, I'm at the Maple Grove entrance. There's a man here. Yes, a tall black man, blocking me from entering my own neighborhood. He's acting aggressive, and I don't feel safe. Nathan's eyes widened slightly at the description. Aggressive? He hadn't even raised his voice. He took a step back from the gate, folded his arms, and exhaled slowly, doing his best to appear non-threatening to anyone who might arrive. The hose still lay coiled on the ground near his flowers, dripping onto the soil, a strange reminder how mundane the afternoon had been just minutes earlier. A couple of teenagers on bikes slowed as they rode past, sensing drama in the air. One whispered to the other and pedaled off quickly, perhaps to spread the news. Linda ended the call with a triumphant click of her phone's button. She crossed her arms, chin tilted up as if she had already won whatever battle she believed she was fighting. Nathan, meanwhile, couldn't help thinking how surreal it all felt. He'd been watering flowers, minding his own business, and now he was the subject of a police call. He leaned against the fence lightly, still keeping a polite distance. Ma'am, the police will come, but they're going to ask you for proof of residence, too. Maybe you can save us all some time by getting your car from the car? Linda's lips curled into a small, defiant smile. No, I'll wait. I want them to see how ridiculous you're being. This will go on record. Nathan shook his head slightly, but didn't respond. He had the uneasy sense that the woman wasn't interested in resolving anything. She just wanted to win. What neither of them knew at that moment was that the 911 dispatcher handling Linda's call, listening patiently as she described the so-called aggressive man, was Nathan's wife, Maya. That twist was going to change everything. At the Maple County Emergency Communications Center, the evening shift was usually predictable. Saturdays meant a few noise complaints, maybe the occasional fender bender, sometimes a lost pet. Nothing too dramatic. Maya James had been a dispatcher for 6 years. She was good at her job, calm under pressure, with a voice that could soothe even the most frantic caller. That night, she sat at her desk wearing her headset, her brown eyes scanning the glowing computer screen that displayed maps of the city, call logs, and incoming alerts. She'd just finished helping a teenage boy who'd gotten locked out of his house when a new line lit up on her screen. She pressed a button, her tone instantly switching to professional warmth. 911, what's your emergency? On the other end, a sharp, trembling voice shot back. Yes, I need help immediately. There's a man blocking me at the Maple Grove entrance. He won't let me into my own neighborhood. He's aggressive, and I feel threatened. Maya straightened slightly in her chair. Maple Grove? That was her neighborhood. Her heart gave a quick jolt, but she kept her tone even. Ma'am, I can help you. Can you tell me exactly where you are? I'm at the main gate by the clubhouse. This man is standing there like he owns the place. I told him I live here, but he's refusing to let me in. Maya's fingers hovered over the keyboard as she typed the details into the incident log. A line of worry crept into her thoughts. A man at the gate, refusing entry. All right, I understand. Can you describe the man to me? The caller didn't hesitate. He's tall, black, wearing a blue t-shirt and jeans. He's just standing there, blocking the gate like some kind of security guard. Maya's stomach tightened. That description was all too familiar. She glanced at the small framed photo sitting beside her computer. Nathan's smiling in the backyard of their new home, wearing his favorite blue t-shirt. For a split second, her brain refused to connect the dots. Then it clicked like a puzzle piece sliding into place. The man this woman was calling about was her husband. Her heart began to race, but her training kicked in. The golden rule of dispatchers: stay calm, stay professional. Ma'am, Maya said carefully, has this man threatened you in any way? Has he touched you or tried to harm you? No, but he's being confrontational. He's demanding to see my ID. Who does that? I told you I live here. Maya typed another note into the log. No physical threat. Verbal confrontation over gate access. Inside, though, she was struggling not to laugh at the absurdity. Nathan, the most easygoing man she knew, being described as aggressive was almost comical, if it weren't for the fact that this could escalate. I'm dispatching an officer to your location, Maya said steadily. Please stay where you are. Can you tell me your name? Linda Whitmore, the woman replied crisply, as if the name alone should explain everything. Maya jotted it down. Of course, Linda. She'd heard that name before. Nathan had mentioned a woman in the HOA Facebook group who always complained about lawn decorations and street parking. Thank you, Ms. Whitmore. An officer's on the way, Maya assured her. As soon as she ended the call, Maya took a deep breath, then discreetly pulled out her phone from under the desk, something she rarely did on duty. She typed a quick message to Nathan. Hey, heads up. Someone just called 911 about you at the gate. Stay cool. An officer's coming. She hit send, her pulse still elevated. Back at the gate, Nathan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, saw Maya's message, and exhaled a tiny sigh of relief. He knew now what Linda was up to, and he also knew Maya had his back. He sent her a simple thumbs-up emoji in response. He slipped the phone back into his pocket and continued to stand calmly by the gate, his posture relaxed but alert. Linda, meanwhile, kept pacing like a cat trapped in a box, her phone clutched tightly as if it were a shield. Inside the dispatch center, Maya watched the instant update on her screen as the nearest patrol car, Unit 12, acknowledged the call. The name displayed on the system, Officer Ramirez. She felt a bit of relief. Ramirez was someone she trusted, friendly, level-headed, and importantly, familiar with Nathan. He often patrolled their community and had once helped Nathan when his car battery died. Still, Maya couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. A simple misunderstanding could spiral if Linda exaggerated or if a passerby assumed something worse. She had fielded too many calls where assumptions had led to unnecessary confrontations. Everything okay? Her co-worker Jenna asked from the next desk, noticing the tight set of Maya's shoulders. Yeah, Maya replied, forcing a small smile. Just another neighborhood dispute. But Jenna caught the flicker of something in her eyes and let it drop. A few minutes later, Ramirez's unit pinged as on scene. Maya leaned slightly closer to her screen, even though she couldn't see what was happening outside the text updates. Her job at this stage was to monitor, be ready for any escalation, and keep the line of communication open. She couldn't help picturing the scene. Nathan at the gate, arms probably crossed in that quiet, patient way of his, and Linda, pacing and gesturing like a storm about to break. Nathan, standing there, wondered if the officer would show up expecting trouble. He knew his own calm demeanor wouldn't match Linda's story of him being aggressive, but he was prepared to explain. The minutes stretched. A few neighbors had come outside pretending to check their mail, curious about the drama. Nathan kept his focus straight ahead, trying not to let their watchful eyes get to him. Finally, the sound of car tires crunching on the gravel drive signaled the arrival of the patrol car. Ramirez stepped out, adjusting his cap and giving a polite nod to both Nathan and Linda. But the tension wasn't over yet. Linda immediately launched into her story, arms waving, voice rising, while Nathan waited quietly, ready to give his side. Back at the call center, Maya's radio crackled with Ramirez's voice. Unit 12 on scene at Maple Grove Gate. Situation under control for now. Just a verbal dispute. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. For all her composure on the job, she couldn't deny how strange it felt hearing her husband described as part of an incident. She stayed on the line, listening, ready to document every detail for the report. Meanwhile, a thought nagged at the back of her mind. Linda still had no idea who she just called for help. That revelation was about to unfold in a way none of them would forget. The sun was beginning its slow descent behind the line of maple trees that gave Maple Grove its name. Long stripes of golden light stretched across the pavement as Officer Ramirez's patrol car rolled to a smooth stop beside the main gate. Nathan's shoulders loosened the tiniest bit at the sight of Ramirez. The officer stepped out of the car, adjusting the brim of his navy cap with the kind of calm, measured movement of someone who'd seen almost every kind of neighborly quarrel. "Evening," Ramirez said, his voice steady and polite. He glanced between the two figures, Nathan standing relaxed but alert, Linda standing stiff-armed, her clipboard hugged to her chest like armor. Before Ramirez could take another step, Linda moved forward in a burst of pent-up frustration. "Thank goodness you're here, officer," she exclaimed. "This man has been blocking me from entering my own neighborhood for the past 20 minutes. He refused to cooperate, refused to open the gate. I want him removed immediately. He's been aggressive, intimidating, and frankly, I feel unsafe." She spoke quickly, her words tumbling over each other, her fingers stabbing the air toward Nathan as if she could pin the blame physically to him. Ramirez lifted one eyebrow, then looked over at Nathan. "Aggressive, huh?" he asked mildly. Nathan gave a small shrug. "Evening, officer. I just asked her for ID. I didn't recognize her, and the rules say no entry without a card or visitor code. I haven't moved from the spot since." The officer nodded, taking that in without comment. He'd known Nathan casually for a couple of months, enough to recognize him as the man who'd once offered him a bottle of water during a hot patrol shift. Linda, not noticing the familiarity between the two men, jumped in again. "He's lying. I've lived here for over 20 years. I'm on the HOA board. I don't need to prove to him who I am. He's new here. He shouldn't be deciding who gets in." Ramirez turned back to her, still polite. "Ma'am, do you have your access card with you? Or maybe some form of ID so I can confirm your address?" For the first time that evening, Linda hesitated. Her eyes flickered to the gate, then back to the officer. "I left my car in the car. I was just walking up to check the entrance first." "All right," Ramirez said. "That's fine. We can walk back to your car together and get it. That way I can verify everything, and we can sort this out." But Linda's chin tilted upward stubbornly. "Why should I have to do that? I've already explained who I am. This man is wasting my time. You should be questioning him, not me." Nathan stayed silent, knowing any comment now would only feed the tension. The breeze picked up, carrying with it the scent of someone grilling burgers a few houses down. It should have been an ordinary evening in a quiet suburb, but the scene at the gate felt charged, like static in the air before a storm. Ramirez sighed softly, then shifted his stance so that he was standing at an equal distance between both of them. His tone remained calm but took on a firmer edge. "Ma'am, I understand you're frustrated, but my job is to confirm facts. Right now, Ramirez gestured toward Nathan, says he lives here and was following gate protocol. You're saying you live here too, but without your card or ID, I can't confirm that yet. I need to see proof so I can close out this call properly." Linda's lips pressed into a thin line. The authority in Ramirez's voice left her little room to argue, but her pride was visibly wrestling with her common sense. Finally, she muttered, "Fine. My car is just down the street." Ramirez nodded. "Let's go get the card, then." As they started to walk, the radio on Ramirez's shoulder crackled to life. "Unit 12, status check. Everything okay at Maple Grove?" The female voice coming through the static was calm, professional, familiar. Nathan's face broke into a small, involuntary smile. He knew that voice anywhere. "That's my wife," he said lightly, nodding toward the radio. Ramirez grinned. "That's right, you're Maya's husband. I didn't put it together at first." Linda stopped in her tracks, her head whipping around toward Nathan. "Wait, your wife is a dispatcher?" Nathan nodded. "Yep, she's the one who took your call." For a moment, the words didn't seem to register. Then a flicker of surprise crossed Linda's face, quickly replaced by something harder to read. Part embarrassment, part indignation. I didn't know," she stammered. Ramirez's voice came through the radio as he replied to dispatch. "All good here, Maya. Just sorting out a misunderstanding." There was a short pause, then Maya's voice again, a hint of warmth creeping through a professional tone. "Copy that, Unit 12. Glad to hear Nathan's behaving himself." Nathan chuckled quietly at that. Linda's ears turned a faint shade of pink. They reached Linda's car, a shiny silver SUV parked under a street lamp just outside the gate. She opened the glove compartment with jerky movements, rifling through papers until she produced a small plastic access card. "Here," she said, handing it to Ramirez with an air of reluctant surrender. Ramirez checked it, confirmed her name and address, then handed it back. "All right, looks like you do live here. Appreciate you showing that to me." Linda muttered something that sounded like a thank you, but was swallowed by the sound of a passing car. They walked back toward the gate together, the earlier shouting now replaced by an awkward silence. When they reached Nathan, Ramirez gave a small nod of reassurance to him. "Everything checks out. Just some misunderstanding," the officer said. Nathan returned the nod. "Glad we could clear it up." Linda shifted uncomfortably under Nathan's calm gaze. For the first time, her voice lost its edge. "I suppose I might have overreacted," she admitted quietly. Nathan's expression softened. "It's okay. I get it. Rules can be frustrating. I just didn't recognize you, and the guidelines said not to let strangers in. I was only trying to keep everyone safe." That last line seemed to land somewhere deeper than Linda expected. Her posture relaxed a fraction. "Well," she said finally, "I guess I should remember to carry my card next time." Ramirez gave a small, approving smile. "That'll save us all some trouble." The tension that hovered in the air all evening seemed to drift away with the breeze. The small crowd of neighbors who had been peeking from their windows began to disappear from view, curtains falling back into place. As Ramirez headed back to his patrol car, Nathan offered a polite nod to Linda. "Hope you have a good evening, ma'am." Linda hesitated, then gave the smallest of nods in return. She walked past him through the gate without another word, her steps slower than before, the weight of the situation seeming to linger on her shoulders. Nathan watched her go, then exhaled, feeling the knot in his chest finally ease. He reached for his phone to text Maya a quick update. "All good now." Ramirez handled it. "See you at home." Back in the dispatch center, Maya read the text and smiled to herself. The irony of the situation, Linda calling 911 on a man whose wife was a dispatcher, would definitely be tonight's dinner table story. For Nathan, the whole experience felt like something out of a sitcom, except for the uneasy truth it revealed. Assumptions could turn a simple rule-following moment into a near-serious incident. But as he gathered up the hose he'd left by the flowers, he couldn't help shaking his head with a small, rueful smile. The next morning, Maple Grove looked like a completely different neighborhood. The early sun glazed the rooftops with soft gold. Birds fluttered across the manicured lawns, and sprinklers clicked rhythmically as they sprayed arcs of water over the fresh grass. Nathan stood by his porch with a steaming mug of coffee, watching the quiet street. Everything felt calm again, but his mind kept replaying the scene from the night before, the raised voices, the flashing red and blue lights from Ramirez's patrol car, the curious eyes of neighbors peeking from behind curtains. He shook his head with a small, humorless chuckle. "Never thought my first HOA drama would involve a 911 call," he muttered under his breath. The sound of the front door opening made him glance back. Maya stepped out in her uniform, her dark hair pulled neatly into a ponytail, ready to head out for her next dispatch shift. She smiled at him, the corners of her eyes crinkling the way they always did when she teased him. "You look like you didn't sleep much," she said, reaching for her own coffee. Nathan shrugged. Hard to sleep when the gatekeeper turns into the neighborhood villain overnight. Maya leaned on the porch railing beside him. "You weren't the villain, Nate. You were just doing what the HOA asked everyone to do. Most people would have ignored the rule. You didn't." Nathan stared into his cup. Still, it was ugly. I didn't like how it felt. I don't think she liked it either, even if she won't admit it. Maya's expression softened. "That's probably true. People hate feeling embarrassed. But give it time. Sometimes, neighbors need a little reality check before they realize they were wrong." He nodded but wasn't convinced. He'd moved to Maple Grove hoping for a peaceful life, not expecting to end up at the center of neighborhood gossip within his first few months. Just as he was about to retreat inside, he noticed a figure slowly walking up the street. Linda. She wasn't holding her clipboard this time. Her pace was unhurried, her shoulders less stiff, her expression unreadable. Nathan felt his stomach tighten instinctively, but he stayed where he was. When she reached the edge of his driveway, she stopped, clutching the strap of her handbag with one hand. "Morning," she said, her voice quieter than he remembered. "Morning," Nathan replied evenly. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't quite tense, more uncertain. Finally, Linda let out a breath. I wanted to apologize. For last night, I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions about you. I was out of line." Nathan blinked, caught slightly off guard by her candor. He'd expected defensiveness or another argument. Not this. "I appreciate that," he said. "Really, I know things got heated. I didn't mean to make you feel unwelcome. I just didn't recognize you, and I thought I was doing the right thing." Linda nodded slowly. I should have followed the same rules I expect everyone else to follow. I let my frustration get the better of me. I'm used to people recognizing me around here, and when you didn't, I overreacted." Maya watched quietly from the porch, her expression softening. "It means a lot that you came by to say that," Nathan added. "I wasn't expecting it." Linda gave a faint, almost sheepish smile. "Well, I figured I should. I couldn't sleep much last night either. I kept thinking about how ridiculous I must have sounded, calling 911 over a gate dispute." Nathan chuckled lightly. It was definitely an unusual evening. They both laughed, and for the first time since they'd met, the tension between them seemed to dissolve. Linda glanced toward Maya. "And please tell your wife I'm sorry, too. I can't believe I called the police on her husband of all people." Maya smiled warmly. "No harm done. I've heard worse calls come through the line." That earned another small laugh from Linda. They stood there for a few moments, the morning sunlight washing over them, as if the entire neighborhood had been holding its breath and was finally exhaling. "Look," Linda said after a pause, "we're having a monthly HOA meeting this weekend at the clubhouse. If you and Maya are free, you should come. We could use a fresh perspective on things. Maybe you can help us improve how we handle gate security, so we don't have another repeat of last night." Nathan raised his eyebrows. "That sounds surprisingly reasonable." Linda smirked. "I have my moments." After she left, Maya nudged Nathan with her elbow. "See? Not so bad after all." Nathan shook his head in mild disbelief. "Didn't see that coming. A day ago she wanted me thrown out, and now she's invited me to a meeting. People surprise you, Maya said, sipping her coffee. That's why I love this job. Every call is a story waiting to be told. By Saturday afternoon, the clubhouse was buzzing with small talk and the clinking of coffee cups. The usual crowd of board members sat at a long table at the front, while a few dozen residents, including Nathan and Maya, took their seats in the rows of folding chairs. Linda stood at the podium, looking more composed than Nathan had ever seen her. She cleared her throat and addressed the room. Before we begin today's agenda, I want to take a moment to talk about something that happened earlier this week. She began. The room quieted instantly. I made a mistake, Linda continued. I overreacted at the gate, and I called the police on one of our own neighbors without first trying to work things out. It was unnecessary, and I'd like to apologize to Nathan and his wife, Maya, in front of everyone here. Nathan felt dozens of eyes turned toward him. He raised a hand slightly and gave a nod, signaling there were no hard feelings. Linda smiled briefly, then went on. This incident showed me that we need better communication and more practical guidelines for everyone, board members included, so nobody feels singled out or mistreated in the future. I'd like to propose forming a small committee to update our security policies. Nathan, if you're willing, we'd love for you to be part of that committee. A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. Nathan glanced at Maya, who gave him an encouraging nudge. Sure, he said with a smile. I'd be happy to help. The meeting shifted into a discussion about improving the gate system, adding a digital check-in for guests, clear signage for residents, and even a suggestion box for community concerns. For the first time since moving in, Nathan felt like he was part of something bigger than just his house and yard. Later that evening, as Nathan and Maya walked back home from the clubhouse, the streetlights flickered on one by one, casting warm pools of light across the sidewalk. That went better than I expected, Nathan said. See, Maya teased, told you she wasn't all bad. Sometimes people just need a chance to understand each other. Nathan nodded thoughtfully. I guess last night wasn't just about a gate card. It was about assumptions. Hers about me, mine about her. I'm glad we sorted it out. Maya linked her arm through his. You know what they say. Sometimes conflict builds stronger bridges, if you're willing to learn from it. Nathan smiled at the thought. As they passed the gate, he glanced back at it, remembering the shouting and flashing lights from just days ago. Now it just looked like any other quiet neighborhood entrance, unremarkable, almost peaceful. Funny how one moment can change the way you see a place, he said. Maya squeezed his arm. Or the way you see a person.